I'm Ken, and you are watching Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. Today I am going to be looking at some more NitrOS9 Ease of Use stuff. So if you haven't seen the other videos I've done on this, the videos about setting it up on your computer or on your emulator and some of the stuff on the GUI and everything else, I would suggest you start with those videos. I will put a link up here to the playlist and one down there to the playlist. So, what are we going to do today? Well, I'm going to show you how to customize things a little bit more, so when it boots up, it's a little bit more yours. So, let's jump right in and start customizing some stuff. Okay, we have booted up the NitrOS9 Ease of Use Edition, so let's kick this off with a couple of simple things. So, this is the 40 column width screen. You can change your screen simply by typing width 80, change it back, width 40. That's all there is to that. Now, you may hear that there's a clicking sound every time I type something. Well, that's your key click. If you don't like that, quite simply, you type Keyclick off. And it is now off. There you go. Now, the next thing I am going to show you is how to start customizing your version of NitrOS9 Ease of Use for yourself. Now what you want to do is Swapboot. Now there's a few different things you can do with this. What Swapboot does is there's a number of different boot files that you can choose from to start the computer up. Now you've got the boot for the SDC, so that's for DriveWire. Boot for SDC with DriveWire and the RS-232 pack. Boot for emulators. Boot for emulators only. OS9 boot on hardware clock. So what that does is it actually reads in the time. If you're using an emulator, it'll read in the time right from your computer, so you don't have to use that, or you don't have to insert that every time when the computer starts up. And soft clock is using the emulator, but still gives you the option to put in your own time at the beginning. And then there's number 5, which is, of course, boot from SDC, which I am obviously using the SDC here. So it is what I had it set to already, but that's how you choose a new boot file. And you reboot it, takes you into DOS, and all you have to do is type DOS and NitrOS9 starts back up. Okay, we are back into the terminal window. Now I am going to show you how to further customize your NitrOS9 Ease of Use files, startup files. So first thing to do, take a look at your directory. You can see it near the top there, you have something called boots. That contains all your boot files. So we want to change the directory to boots and take a look at the directory. Now, as you can see, there's three types of files there. There's startup, OS9 boot, and environment.file. And then there is the 5 different choices that you had in the Swapboot. So we are using the SDC. Now we're going to make a customized version of this. So you have to have 3 identically named files. One with startup, one is the OS9 boot, and one is the environment.file. So the way to make your stuff that you want to customize. So you do copy and then your source file and then what you want to call it. Helps if I spell everything right. Now there are a couple of things that you absolutely have to do on the naming here. The first is that there's a 29 character limit, so your name cannot be longer than 29 characters. The second is if it's an emulator file that you're making a copy of, it has to start with EMU. So it has to be startup EMU then something. OS9boot.emu something. So it always has to start with EMU. If it's an emulator, that's how the computer tells which boot sources it has to use, like whether it's a real disk or an emulated disk, stuff like that. So now 3, you have to copy all 3. So as you can see, I'm ending each one with SDCKen. Now, the copy command is not the most efficient way to copy files, but it is basically the easiest to remember. You could shave a second or two off using some other commands, but as this is me being a beginner, copy, it copies. That's why I use it, because I can easily remember that. So now when I do the directory, you can see there is now a startup SDCKen, OS9 boot SDCKen, and environment.file.sdcken. So those are the ones that I am going to be messing around with. Now, the easiest to use file editor that I've found is called VED, and I'll put a link down below to the instruction manual for this because it does a lot, but you can use it with just knowing a few of the commands. So what I want to do is the environment file. And here we are in the environment file. Now, luckily, when this was all made, it's very well commented. So you can see all of the things here. Now, I'm only going to change a couple of things. There are a lot of things that you can change here. You can change all kinds of palette colors and everything else. But the first thing I'm going to change is down here somewhere, the Keyclick. I'm going to change it so it is disabled on when you boot up the computer. So to get rid of your whatever you're on there, you hit break and it erases it. Then we'll put in a 0 for disabled. And now the other thing I'm going to change is the monitor type. I am currently fairly constantly booting my computer using the switcheroo from Kwikgen. So I am almost always in RGB. So I'm going to change this to RGB. So break erases whatever your cursor is on and then just type in whatever you want to change it to. So I've now changed it to an RGB monitor. That's all I'm going to do with this one. So the way to quit this and save it is Control Q, save the file. If you hear things in the background, that is my cat. Oh, and we want to change it to the same name. Overwrite it, yes. Now the interesting thing is that I've added those 3 different files in here. So as I showed you there, I've got the 3 different files: startup, OS9 boot, and environment file. If I run Swapboot right now, it's going to check for the different boot sets. And all of a sudden, I've got a sixth choice there, which is boot for SDC Ken. So I can choose that one. And it updates the startup file, system environment file, and the OS9 boot file. And now we reboot it. And there we are. As you can see, it has changed slightly because now it is the RGB monitor, and the Keyclick is off. So that was just a quick little simple change. All right, so everything is loaded back up again. So now I am going to show you something. It's a little more advanced, but it's how to change files in your OS9 boot file. Now, not something you should do if you don't know what you're doing, because this is something that you can really mess up your system with. But so as you can see, it's still the same. Now, the file that we do use to change your OS9 boot file, to change anything in that, is called Kwikgen. Kwikgen. Now you don't have to put in anything else because you're going to be editing the actual file that is in the computer right now, the file that was used to load the computer up. So you want to load. Now you want to load from which drive? If you are using an emulator, you type /D0, and if you are using an SDC like I am, it's /DD. And there you go. These are all of the files that are loaded in to run NitrOS9 when you start up your computer. And they're divided into different groupings here. One of the reasons that you might want to change something in here is you can see there's the SCBBP and P files. Those are your printer files. So they're currently set to run a physical printer hooked up to your computer. But if you're using, say, a drive wire printer, well, you have to put different files in there. One of the things you have to make sure, though, is that you erase the files that you're replacing first, because if you put in 2 files with the same name, it does all kinds of nasty stuff to your computer. Now, all the W files are your terminal windows, so it's actually set up to run 15 terminal windows right now. So let's say you want to save a little tiny bit of space, and you could D for delete, and you want to delete module W15, and D for delete module W14. Okay, so it's as simple as that to delete something from your boot up. But let's say that, oh, you've done this, you've actually saved it, but now you want those two terminal windows back. Well, you're going to have to insert. So you go I, insert after. Now the computer will actually know what the modules are, even if they're out of order, but the simplest thing to do is if you're putting in W14, put it in after W13. Now, here's the tricky part. You have to know where the module directory is. So you got to know on your drive here, and on your hard drive that you're using for OS9, the NitrOS9 here, where are all the modules? Well, switch to a different window. Now, if you look at your directory, you have a modules directory. So change your directory look at it. Well, you're using a 6809. What I'm using, if you have a 6803 computer, the directory will be 6803L2. So change the directory to that one. And you want to change your directory into another modules. And in here, your modules that you're looking for are in the SCF file. And as you can see here, so you're going to be wanting to put the W14.dw and W15.dw back into your file. So one thing that I noticed I didn't mention in the video that has to be mentioned here is that normally when you are adding any files to the OS9 boot file, there are two files that must be added. One is a descriptor and one is a driver. If these two files do not match, then they will not work together. So for instance, in the example I gave earlier with the printer files, you've got the scbbp file, which is your driver file, and you've got the p file, which is your descriptor. So you can think of that as basically a file that points to the proper file that you're calling upon. Where it's asking you, new module directory, you want to insert that /dd/modules/6809L2/modules/SCF. And just double check SCF. And we want to do, as I said, it's W14.dw. And just like that, that has been added back in. Now, the good thing is if we insert, now we're going to insert after W14. it remembers the file tree that you were just in. So another shortcut too is that if the name is similar, you can just use the arrow key, go over, so it's W1, and then change that to a 5.dw. There we go, and we've inserted terminal Windows 14 and 15 back into the boot. And then you quit. So it's warning you here that the modifications in the buffer to the boot file in the buffer are not yet saved. Now you can hit Control Break to quit anyways, or any other key to return to the menu. And if I was going to be saving this, I believe I would have had to hit the W key for write. Then it would have overwritten the file in the buffer to the new file with the new file to the new boot file with the new files in it that I had added or deleted. But I don't want to, so there we go. And that is in essence how you mess around with your OS9 boot file. Well, there you go. That is how to make NitrOS9 a little bit more yours when you fire it up. Now, I do want to tell you that if you're watching this before CocoFest 2021, which is taking place on November 6th and 7th, myself and Curtis Boyle will be doing a virtual presentation on the Saturday about NitrOS9, and we will be doing a live question period. So if you're at the CocoFest, join us for that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at more NitrOS9 stuff, because really I'm having a lot of fun doing this. All I gotta say is I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what you can do with the liking, the subscribing, and or the commenting below, because anything and everything you do is always greatly appreciated. See you next time.